Hey, it's Mazzy here, and I sold my records. That is not a clickbait title for a video. I sold my records. Of course, you see records behind me, but this is true. I sold a third of my record collection in 1995. I've told this story before, but I have a lot of new viewers here, so you don't know the whole story. But this is sort of a ramble video in a way, but it's inspired by a few things. I came across a photograph. I transferred in the last year. I basically had a lot of black and white negative scanned, and I came across this photograph of my record collection alone with no person standing in front of it from 1986 or 1987 in my apartment in San Francisco. That was before I sold a third of my records, and you can see right here, look at this beautiful collection there. And the equipment, I had some Hafler gear, amp, preamp, tuner there. Kind of blanking on the speakers I had there. And I had a dual turntable, the one I still have here downstairs. But that is my record collection. From one of the pictures, it was from a series of photographs my friend Jashit Brooks took and I took at this party at my house in 1986, 87. In San Francisco. And that inspired me to talk about this. And I was also inspired by this vinyl community podcast video where my buddy Chance, who does a great podcast, he's concert buddy there. And this is an interesting discussion. He does these podcasts. You can also see him on YouTube. I highly recommend it because I go hot and cold with the idea of flipping. And this is with Pumping Vinyl, William the Flipper, somewhat new to the vinyl community making channels, and I listened to this last night. Looks like what's great about this, you see Chance trying to keep his eyes open during this video. It's a little falling asleep about the constant back and forth about flipping, and William actually. He does it as a side gig and he swears. Look at Chance raise his hand swearing, I am not a flipper, but we all do maybe a form of flipping. And I'm not going to criticize what either of these guys do, what I do, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story. I'll put a link below to this video. It's entertaining because a lot of people do get upset with the whole idea of flipping now. Apparently, William does a lot of things like Urban Outfitters, these kind of limited edition of new acts, but as well as other things too in used record stores. But I think he's more into buying quantities of these records that, places like Urban Outfitters or Barnes & Noble have these cheap sales every once in a while. We're trying to clear stuff out and he gets it, hoards it up. And I mean that in the way that, but he has to keep an inventory. So I do want to talk about that. Flipping, record stores, used record stores, a little bit of my experience, and those 2,000 records I sold in 1995 when I got rid of a third of my collection because I was all in on CDs. And you've seen my CD collection. Here's my CD room now. Now, I know a lot of people now who went through that CD period for 20, 25 years, and now they've sold their CDs off and they've put them in boxes or maybe transfer them to hard drive. Now, I do have most of my CDs on a hard drive, but I like having the physicality still. So I still love having that wonderful CD collection of a lot of music I can't get on vinyl and vice versa. And I like doing that, especially downstairs in my office in that room is when I play CDs or when I have a party maybe, people where you want to put a CD on because you want someone to knock the table, scratch the record, and change it every 15 minutes. At least you get a good 60 to 70 minutes or 80 minutes of CDs. But let me talk about that sale of my 2,000 records. 1995, I was at that point. I'm all in on CDs. So I went through my collection, called it, and pulled 2,000 records. And it turned out, looking back on it, I picked a lot of the wrong records to sell because I figured, those first 3 band records, Music from Big Pink and the Brown album, and I'm going to sell those because I'm going to get them on CD, or all those original Led Zeppelin records I have. When they come out on CD, I'll be ready for them. Might as well sell them now, even though they all weren't out at the time. I guess by then maybe some of them were, but some of them weren't. My guess is I probably had a pristine Robert Ludwig cut of Led Zeppelin because I did buy that record the first week it came out, Led Zeppelin 2. So I don't know what I had. We didn't look at uh, Dead Wax or who mastered it. We didn't give a crap about that in those days. So that was something I just decided, I don't need this. I'm going to have the CD, the better format, wink, wink, nod, nod. And that was it. And I called a buddy of mine, a guy who actually kind of got me the job at my second record store called the Record Factory in San Francisco in 1974. His name was Steve, and he was like the buyer at Amoeba Records in Berkeley. This is before they opened a San Francisco or Los Angeles store. So I had the bins of records that I wanted to get rid of. He came over, made me an offer, and I remember they said, I'll come back with a truck like in 2 days. And I remember going through it and pulling like maybe another 50 records that I decided I can't get rid of that. I kept them. But I got $2,500 for 2,000 records that are probably all original copies or, from the 60s and 70s and reissues and things. And I sold them. What a mistake. But we didn't know. And I probably have bought most of them back since. And I do want to talk about that because that discussion on flipping, if you do the work and you flip, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? People are going to have all kinds of opinions on that because they say, well, that doesn't leave it for me to buy when I go on record store day. Now, record store day is a little different because most record stores, if they're proper record store day, record stores, you have a limit of one item per copy. If you go back later, you do the work, all the power to you. I don't like the idea of these power flippers where they pay people to stand in line to buy things. I've really not got into that except for the two auctions I'll mention. And there's people that don't like the idea of YouTubers auctioning records. Let me talk a little bit about that. Mine started accidentally when my buddy Coleman, you can see here in the picture, Coleman, I've known him since our first record store job in 1973. So 50 years ago last year we met. He passed away several years ago, and his sister reached out to me what to do with his record collection. He had an amazing collection, a lot of soul, a lot of rock and roll, a lot of OG UK presses of The Who and Kinks and Beatles and Stones, and just really a wonderful collection. Coleman never cleaned a record, but he had a great record collection. So Coffee Dave and I we decided we're going to help her out. We bought the collection from her, and it was very fair price. She felt pleased. Out of those 5,000 albums, or a little more than that, maybe 5,500 or so, 6,000 albums, Dave and I each kept about 700 to 800 records apiece. And I doubled my soul collection and other things. And we ended up doing those auctions. And, we made some money on it, not a lot on it after all was said and done. And we gave a lot of records away. We gave some freebies away after the ones we kept. And there were some that were worth nothing that someone just bought the last remaining boxes. This card went in every single record sold. Picture of Coleman when he was probably around 25 years old there, and a little biography and how I met him. And so everyone who bought something from the Coleman collection got a card. And then about a little over a year ago, I get this call from Dizzy reaching out to me, and I said, I don't buy collections. I don't do this. This is not what I do. And I told him I can give you names of people I know who actually buy it. And because you go into a record store and you sell a collection of 5 or 10,000 records, you're going to get $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 a piece, maybe if you're lucky. You just never know. And a lot of times, the more they buy, the less you're going to get. And Dizzy was a unique situation. I went down, I met him, and he charmed me. And we've been doing this series of Dizzy auctions. And he likes the entertainment and the joy of seeing these records. And I think people have loved it. So in terms of me being a flipper, I've only really ever flipped one record. And that was sort of, I want to say accidental, but it's no accident. But I didn't buy it to flip. I woke up one morning and I looked at my Instagram online. Now, I suggest if you're looking for records, now we're at a time period after post-pandemic where you can kind of breathe a little more. Obviously, certain limited editions go on sale and you have to jump. But follow every artist you like, follow every label you like, stores and everything. One morning I saw Third Man Record had a Paul McCartney 3, a limited edition pre-sale of 333 copies made from recycled copies of McCartney 1 and McCartney 2 with a hand-screened cover. Different from all those color variations they ended up selling. And I bought one, $60. I got one literally, I saw it on Instagram. I pushed it within a minute. I bought one. It was total accidental waking up at, I don't know, 5 in the morning, whatever it was, my time. And I bought that and I kept that thing for 3 or 4 months. And then I saw I was going for crazy money. So actually I did eBay it. I put on eBay. I sold that record for $2,600. Now, and that was an auction situation. So people paid what they wanted to pay, what they thought was fair for themselves. And to this day, that is going to hold its value or get, increase even more because there's only 333 copies of it. So I flipped that record and then I went out and I bought an Uber box the next year, the Harrison and Beatle thing. So I turned it into things in my own collection. So that's the extent of my flipper thing. Again, it's not a judgment to anybody who decides to flip or to resell records. These two are still talking about flipping and yeah, it's going on and on and on and on. It's a good conversation, interesting conversation. Again, no matter what you think about it. So I sold my record collection, discussed flipping and YouTube and other auctions or whatnot auctions. Retail stores do this. And I worked in retail stores at a time in the 1970s when, for the most part, a new record store was not allowed to sell used records. Now, occasionally some did, but the labels that sold to you would not sell to you if you were selling used records because they don't get a part of that. And an old copy would compete with a new copy and so on. Sometimes there would be a used section, or in fact, the store we had in San Francisco, the small record factory store, had a balcony, his old bank building. And in the mezzanine was a used record store, separate owners. So that was the way it was kind of cheated, skirted the issue in that respect. But that was an issue. So a used record store has to buy things low and sell them high for the most part. That's just the way it is. So if you're selling your collection to a store, to a used store, you're going to get a lot less. So let's talk about Discogs and what your record collection may be worth. Now, the key is may. I kind of haven't done Discogs, added to Discogs in about 6 months, except new records that come in, but I haven't completed my collection. I am right here. There's a marker here. So I'm at the Rolling Stones in my rock, folk, blues, country. I'm up to R. Everything up to R is inputted into Discogs. My entire jazz collection is in Discogs. My entire soul collection is in Discogs. What I haven't done is finished Rolling Stones through Zevon. I haven't done my World Music International albums. I have not done my classical avant-garde albums, and I haven't done the Beatle wall. As you see now, I'm scanning down the Beatle wall, which is American imports, UK, solo, family, Yoko, George Martin, Sean, Julian, etc., and so on, and Beatles covers. So there's a lot more to go. So I would say I'm 2/3 through entering Discogs. I have a long way to go. The Beatles is going to be a shit show entering those in. And let me pose this question to you. At what price would you sell off your entire record collection? Now, Discogs, as you know, if you haven't done Discogs before, those of you who haven't, you can buy records through Discogs. You can see what things have sold for, and then you get an estimated collected value of your collection, low, medium, and high. Now, I've heard people say, oh my God, my high, I have this much money invested in my collection. Well, that's not exactly true. And that will fluctuate like the stock market, but it keeps fairly steady depending on the kind of collection you have. I suppose if you had all those MoFi, rare sealed copies of MoFi before the MoFi bust, they were higher. I think maybe they come down 20 to 40%, maybe. Not everything. Some MoFis have held their value as well. But if I all of a sudden, in my advanced age, decided, Mazzy, it's time to sell your collection. I'm looking at this, and this is not for bragging rights because I have a lot of records, and I've had a lot of records for 60 years, except those 2,000 I sold. My estimated value of my collection on the low side, and I'm going to round it off, it's $78,000. And remember, this is only 2/3 of my collection. So what does that make it? 110,000 estimated value low. That's only if I could sell every piece off separately. You can never do that. You can't. If you invite people over to pick through, you're never going to do that. That's the closest you may get if you sell everything. And then at some point, someone's going to say, look, I'll give you this for the rest of the boxes, haul them away. That's what happens most of the time. My median is 164,000. That's my medium. A lot of people like to go to the medium for insurance purposes because that's like an average, but that's your medium. My high right now, I'm going to sell this and go buy a house in Boca Raton. My high is $345,000. What you see here on a high end, including upstairs in my box sets and things you can't see in front of me here, $345,000 if I got the highest price paid for all these records. But remember, again, that's 2/3, so that's going to exceed $400,000. Jesus Christ. I'm selling off. I'm going to go move to Porto, Portugal and just hang out, drinking whatever they drink in Porto, Portugal or something like that. And then I'll stream. I'll stream at that point. And I'm not even including my, 4,000 compact discs. I mean, they're worth something too. Some worth nothing again. But, some CDs are worth quite a bit. Those are easier to log in because of all the barcodes too. So at what point would you sell your record collection? At what point do you start reselling your collection? I'm elderly statesman here. At what point should I start selling my own collection? I'm working on Dizzy's. I'm helping him out. I worked with Coleman and helped his sister out and curated his collection for others. At what point would you sell your collection? If somebody walked in right now and says, Maz, I will give you $400,000 for this collection, would I sell it? You're damn right I'd sell it. And then I'd go to Porto, Portugal. Anyway, this is just a little bit of a ramble about record flipping. Again, I don't think there's any cut and dried that it's a good thing or a bad thing. It really depends. And it was interesting listening to both William and Concert Buddy talk about it. And that's one take on it. You're going to have a different take. Would you sell your collection for the high value or even the medium value if you have them on Discogs? When are you going to start selling your collection? A lot of people out there are into CDs. A lot of people out there, even if they enjoy this, are probably not in a physical format at all. And all you need is a streamer. And you can just listen that way. And look at all the room. This could be another Airbnb room here. And one of you could be renting this out for a week. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Mazzy loves you.